Hello everybody, Tall Paul here, and today I want to talk to you about level 20 combat in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Level 20 is not something a lot of players end up seeing or being able to play at the table. I have found a lot of joy in running level 20 combat, seeing the shenanigans players can come up with, and really pitting difficult things against them. With that being said, the new core rulebooks gave us new encounter building guidelines, gave us a pool of XP per player at different levels that we're able to use to build those encounters, and there are some crazy encounters that you can build. But how would players fare against it? Is a hard encounter actually a hard encounter? What does it take to really challenge level 20 players at the table? Let's talk about the first encounter that I ran with 5 level 20 players when they knew what they were up against. So here it is, the first encounter. We had an ancient red dragon, an adult red dragon, 2 young red dragons, as well as 4 whelplings on the field. Pitted against them were a dance bard, world tree barbarian, champion fighter, thief rogue, and moon druid. For this encounter, I did let the players know what they were facing and build towards the encounter without being completely and totally ridiculous. I imagine this as kind of an end of campaign encounter where this ancient red dragon had been, terrorizing the countryside, so they knew that they were going to be facing red dragons. With that being said, the players didn't take it to any extremes. There was no armor of invulnerability, there was no fire immunities that are readily available in the building guidelines that I gave them. I gave them access to all the 2024 materials, no legacy, none of the older content, the 2014, etc. I also gave them access to 1 legendary item, 3 very rare, 4 uncommon, and 4 common magic items. And other than that, they just needed to check their items with me. I did not want to end up in a situation where we had an enspelled item of like maze, where they could just take dragons off the field willy-nilly. In addition to this, the players also had the effects of a hero's feast on them. The one spell that I did agree to was Antipathy Sympathy. That could be cast before the encounter started. It was lasting 10 days based on red dragons, and they selected to have the barbarian be a magnet for this spell using sympathy. Other than that, this encounter ran as written. So how did it end up? How much damage did I end up doing to my players? How many did I knock down and how many did I kill? So in the end, this was the ending hit points of all of the players. The 60 temporary hit points on Frazzlepop was because he polymorphed back into the mammoth. Other than that, I did not do a ton of damage to my players. This was because, one, they had all built for this encounter. They all had fire resist, and with that fire resist and the dance bard's ability to give everyone evasion, they really swam through this encounter. Most of the damage from red dragons does come from their breath and that fire damage. All of the spells that the adult and ancient are able to cast are all fire spells. So having that halved and then possibly halved again, or completely negated, meant that I really wasn't able to get a lot of damage through to the players. This combat lasted 4 rounds. This was on, I think this image was taken on turn 5 of round 4, Sigurd's turn, the champion fighter. In addition to this, I believe that most of the breaths recharged the appropriate number of times per Drake. I believe the Ancients was a total of 2 times during 4 rounds. The Adult was again 2 times per 4 rounds. And then for the Youngers, I didn't really keep track. In addition to that, having them all focused on the Barbarian and Charmed by him really limited some of their attacks, but I will say that it really wouldn't have mattered whether or not the Barbarian was a focus of this or Antipathy, Sympathy was cast on him at all, because they would have swum through this encounter. Now, what if they didn't know it was red dragons? What if they had a combat before? There are a lot of questions that I have after running this that I want to test with my players. So that's where we're going to be going from here. They flew through this encounter, and that's including being commanded multiple times from both the adult and the ancient red dragon, basically taking 2 of them out of the combat every combat round. The mammoth is over here because he was commanded to flee. The Drake Warrior was 140 feet away at one point. Even with these players being completely removed from this encounter, it was absolutely no problem. So this is my next experiment. This is a Demi-Lich a Lich, a Death Knight, a Mummy Lord, and a Dracolich. This is another hard encounter based on the 2024 guidelines outlaid in the DMG. They have the exact same items that they had on them fighting the dragons. They were instantly teleported here. I'm giving them the ability to switch out one item with a generic version of that item. So, example, any of the Dragon Slayer's weapons could be hypothetically switched out for a +2 of that weapon. So you'd be looking at a rare to a rare magic item. This is a level 20 party. They would have alternates. I've seen my bag of holding in a game that I've gotten to level 15 or 16. There are tons of things in there that allow you to kind of have some things to switch out for combat. The things that I'm definitely not going to be adding, I don't want to add scrolls to these combats. And in all honesty, the potions have been a non-point because they didn't even really needed to heal. There was, I think, one haste potion drunk for the last encounter, and that was basically it, you know, adding one additional attack or the ability to disengage with that action or dash with that action. This brings me to the level 20 experiment. I want to experiment on my players to see, when put into different level 20 situations, how the encounter building rules really fare at level 20. So we've done one already. We had the players know what they are facing. That was the Red Dragon encounter. Next one up, they're going to not know what they're facing. That is the Undead encounter. They know now, but they're only allowed to switch out one weapon, so they're not really able to gear for it. They're not able to really select which spells to pick as a caster who doesn't have everything, you know, known. Then encounters with a short rest in between. Can they handle 2 hard encounters with 1 short rest in between? Can they handle 2 hard encounters with no rest in between? And then at the end, kind of the marathon. How many encounters can the players get through before they're really starting to get depleted and they start really looking at death as a possibility? So let's take a look at some of the encounters that I'm going to be pitting my players against, and I need to build a few more of these. So 5 level 20 players, you are given 110,000 XP for a high difficulty encounter, a difficult encounter. So the first one was that Red Dragon encounter. Ancient Red Dragon in a lair with an adult, a couple of youngs, and then 3 Red Dragons, leaving only a measly 800 XP left to spend if I wanted to. Next up, the Undead encounter. The Lich, the Demi-Lich, the Dracolich, Death Knight, and a Mummy Lord, and all of this in the Lich's lair. This is going to be a very fun one, but it is going to be a very slow combat for me to run because every single one of these things has legendary actions and legendary resistances. Now, I do want to do another dragon one, so I have this blue dragon one, which is an ancient. You get 2 adults, 3 youngs with this, so you're definitely getting that additional 2 dragons on the field, which I think is really interesting. Not only that, they're also doing lightning and thunder damage, so you can't build a resistance for one of them. In addition to that, I have my elemental one, which actually has a lot of XP still on the table just because there are a lot of elementals in this, and I don't know if I want to run 17 or 18 elementals. We already have, I think, 13 here. So it's 2 elemental the new elemental cataclysms, and then a smattering of other elementals: fire, earth, water. You could have wind here, whatever you really wanted, because they're all the same amount of XP. We have the Under the Sea encounter, which for this one, actually there's supposed to be 2 dragon turtles, so it's 2 dragon turtles, 3 giant squid, and then a kraken. And then the Fey encounter, which are 2 archhags in their lair, a Gothias Blight, as well as 2 dire wargs. This one I'm not as happy about. I might rebuild it, but it is very difficult to build level 20 encounters, period. There's not a ton of really high CR monsters unless you go into like the Tarrasque or the Colossus available in the new 2025 monster manual. So there you have it. 5 level 20 players that know that they're going to be facing red dragons steamroll the encounter. They're able to build fire resist, pick a dance bard, and really gear towards absorbing those breaths right off the snap. Having access to 2 commands for the ancient and the adult did very little to sway the encounter in my favor. I'm excited to continue experimenting with level 20 combat. This is something I really enjoy running, and I really want to find a way to challenge my players, and I don't know if that is in the current encounter building guidelines set forth by Wizards of the Coast. but I am going to find out, and I'm excited to test these, experiment with them, and then share those things with you. So if this is content that you are interested in, please be sure to like and subscribe. We're going to have a lot more great level 20 Dungeons & Dragons stuff coming out. We'll see you next time.